Okay, here you are hearing me for developing your insights on intervention research, meaning and importance of intervention research, designs and methods used in intervention research. So I'm sharing some important ideas, particularly related to designs and methods as well as the meaning of intervention research. Intervention is treatment, pedagogical treatment, a planned treatment, constant treatment, or an intended action employed to a particular group or individuals for developing certain strength, skills, expertise, etc. That is called intervention. Intervention research based on the treatment. For example, we provide pedagogical treatment to a group of the students and we can assess, we can evaluate the effectiveness of such intervention on those target group. At that time, our work is intervention research. Okay, so I share you the insightful ideas related to intervention research and methods. First, the introduction. It is one of the type of the research. So we say descriptive research, exploratory research, historical research, intervention research, cause-effect research, correlational research. We classify research into different types. But here we just discuss intervention research. It is one of the types or forms of research used to examine the effect of teaching, or used to examine the effect of intervention. One of the types or forms of research to examine the effect of teaching or intervention. To say how effective the treatment was. To assess what constructive role did intervention play to the particular group of the students in order to bring countable changes. For that, we carry out intervention research. So here, intervention research examines the effect of an intervention, impact of an intervention on an outcome of interest. We study the outcomes. We assess the outcomes, program outcomes, program effectiveness, the success. The main purpose is to generate results that proves the effectiveness of the intervention program for the people belonging to the target population, right? Assessment of an intervention's effects. The assessment of an intervention's effects usually involves inferences made both on statistical data made on statistical, data analytical, and logical level. We follow several designs. For example, pre-test, post-test intervention design. It is just one among the others. I discuss you several other designs. Pre-post intervention changes of outcome variable is essential, but for the validation of the intervention program, the causal attribution means the impact of other different activities. For example, the teacher may facilitate students in a number of ways. Not only the pedagogical support, but there can be other emotional support, social support, causal attribution of the effect as well as the description of mechanism of change. These are also important. Okay, so intervention research is evidence-based. We take evidence maybe by using test items, maybe by taking interview, maybe by employing questionnaire. Evidence-based practice is a key aspect of any intervention program. The beauty is intervention programs offer replicable results. Replicable results means we find the results may be consistent, valid. The similar kind of results may be taken from the round of investigations. We can use the data or a statistic that we get from one intervention program to another intervention program. This is the meaning of replicable. Intervention programs, they offer replicable results. The results can be used to make tentative judgment, to take several actions. Such programs, I mean to say intervention programs, increase the credibility of treatment, credibility of investment, credibility of the program, efficiency. Program increase their credibility implicitly their implementation in different communities. IR, I mean to say intervention research, it involves designing and implementing several actions. It is always performance based. Remember, intervention research is performance based. So it involves designing and implementing targeted actions or programs to bring about positive changes in individuals, bring about positive changes in communities or organization. Here the goal is, the aim is, here the goal is to assess the effectiveness, to take account of the effectiveness. The aim is to evaluate the efficiency of the program, effectiveness of the intervention in achieving specific outcomes. We made some sort of hypothesis about the possible outcome. We check it with the statistical evidence, and then we come to know whether we become able to achieve the outcomes or not. So intervention research, it aims to inform evidence-based practices and policies. How? Evidence-based practices and policies by providing insights into what works and why. We focus on what works, method, material, resource, why. Develop competence, develop confidence, develop fluency, develop awareness, like that, contributing to the advancement of various fields for the benefit of individuals and society. Got it? In this regard, Fraser and Galinsky argue that intervention research is a systematic study. It is a systematic study of purposive change strategies. In intervention, during the intervention, we employ several strategies. Those strategies can be influential enough to bring changes. The positive impact of the strategy enhance outcome and the effectiveness. Sometimes there can be the threats to it is a investigation. So we use now some uses of intervention studies, intervention research. Okay, I discuss some uses. Here you say the applications of intervention research. We use educational intervention to assess the effectiveness of pedagogical support, effectiveness of teacher support, effectiveness of teaching activities, effectiveness of the teaching learning program as a whole that we provide to the students. For example, we shall introduce a new teaching method, right? We shall introduce a new teaching method in schools to improve student engagement and learning outcomes, and we evaluate their performance. Similarly, we shall intervene job training program. Okay, we shall intervene job training program in an economically disadvantaged area to enhance employability and assist the program's contribution to local economic growth. Another one is that we can implement an anti-bullying campaign. I mean social inclusiveness campaign, a campaign to aware people in democratic ethos. The use, yeah, we are talking the uses of intervention program. Then one of them is we can implement an anti-bullying campaign in schools to foster a more inclusive environment and study its effects on bullying rates and students' well-being. Okay. Now I discuss some steps that we employ in the intervention research. So what are the steps to be followed? Are there any definitive steps? Of course, it is a systematic process. Whatever the type and name is, research is systematic. Steps in the intervention research. Rothman and Thomas, 1994, they have offered for the first time a general model of intervention research. And this model includes several steps. Here you see, first one is problem analysis. We problematize. Before we do research, we start with problem selection. So we should explore the researchable problem. We should plan to address the problem. That is called project planning. Project means research project, intervention project. Then we gather the information, preliminary information. We gather preliminary information and we synthesize, we discuss. Then we may design of the intervention. We can set a design of the intervention. We can design intervention in a way. Later, early development and pilot testing. We can prepare the tools or instruments of data collection and piloting their effective, how compatible they would be in the research area. In order to know the compatibility, we can have pilot testing and experimental evaluation and advanced development. So these are the 6 steps as discussed by Rothman and Thomas for the general model of intervention research. A summary of the first 3 steps of the above mentioned 6-step approach is presented as a reflection activity. So from problem analysis, project analysis, information gathering and synthesis, we get a sort of reflection, and based on that reflection we can design the intervention. So here the step 1, 2 and 3, they are the part of reflection on an intervention research. For example, youth-led participatory action research. PAR, we say participatory action research. Youth-led participatory action research is an intervention program in which youth are mobilized to increase social engagement, their participation, and they are provided pedagogical treatment to develop their understanding is the active citizenship, to develop some modules to support others be active and democratic citizens like this. Okay, it is a youth-led participatory action research is a community-based participatory program. It is guided by the idea of shifting the role of marginalized youth from simply giving voice to one of becoming change agent through educational research. So Rodriguez and Brown 2009, they studied, okay, they conducted an intervention program in order to motivate the youth, be engaged in social activities and enable them to be the change agent of the society. So it was simply giving voice to one of them. A voice, yeah, giving voice means that is intervention. We intervene to give them voices, to make them able to challenges. Okay, now I discuss some designs and methods. Designs and methods used in intervention research is a general methodological rule. Methods should be selected based on the questions. Methods are based on research question, research problems that needs to be answered. Each method option has its own biases. There are several methods. For example, you see qualitative method, quantitative method, mixed method. And of course, the design, experimental, quasi-experimental, action, case study. These are just a few examples. and each method has some sort of limitation. Each method option has its own biases and limitation. No research method can be considered superior to the others. All research methods are equally important, but they are not useful everywhere, because the choice of method depends upon the nature of question as well as the objectives. The choice of methods has implications for the internal or external validity, measurability. A validity is a quality of a research, quality of a test, or quality criteria based on which we can assess the efficiency. The choice of methods has implications for the internal or external validity of research conclusions. The threats to internal validity are history, maturation, trusting, instrumentation, statistical regression, differential selection, experimental mortality, experimental treatment diffusion, compensatory rivalry by the control group, compensatory generalization of treatment. So it has been found in a research that there can be several limitations of a designs and methods in internal validity as well as in the external validity. So we should take these kind of things. We should take the limitations, biases into the consideration so that we can make them. Next, the threats to external validity are resentful demoralization of the control group. Yeah, design experimental one. In experimental design, the quantitative method was used. I mean, taking statistical data from the test items or the behavior observation Likert. There can be some limitations related to internal and external validity. I am talking you. The threats to external validity are resentful demoralization of the control group, lack of an explicit description of the independent variable, multiple treatment interference, novelty and disruption effect, similarly experimental effects, pre-test and post-test sensitization, different times of measurement for dependent variables. Other threats of validity are lack of treatment validity and poor strength of treatment. So here you get just the examples how research designs and methods the methods bring some limitations and create some sort of biases or effect in doing so. The methods available for program evaluation are those usually used in behavioral sciences. We use several methods and designs. Often we use method and design interchangeably, though in depth there can be several differences. Okay? The methods available for program evaluation are those used intervention program evaluation. Are those usually used in behavioral science, namely experimental randomized controlled trials. Quasi means near about, fake, pseudo experimental, time series, and observational or case study designs. Case study, observational, experimental, near about experimental, quasi experimental. These are some examples of the designs, or you can count them as methods. The methods available for program evaluation are those usually used in behavioral science, experimental randomized control group, control trials, and so on. Some of the designs are here as follows: observational or descriptive methods. We use both quantitative and qualitative information. So both quantitatively and qualitatively, the effect of intervention within a group to describe and explain what happens. We use observational or descriptive methods. In these methods, we can use numerical as well as textual information. Similarly, others case studies methods. So see what methods, which designs can be used for the intervention studies. Observational or descriptive method, case study methods. Then experimental, randomized, controlled trials designs. True experimental, where pre-test, post-test equivalence can be taken. Experimental randomization, randomized controlled trials designs. We use random assignment of participants into group. Intervention group, control group and the intervention group, or mini groups like control and many interventions to evaluate. There can be multiple interventions too. It means two or more teachers intervene at the same time by using the same resources but in different groups. So that is called many interventions to evaluate the effectiveness of an intervention. Another design is quasi, fake, near about, not exact. Quasi-experimental methods. They make comparisons between groups. They are not randomized, but based on some criteria, groups can be considered as equivalent. Both experimental and near-experimental methods. Quasi-experimental, some people say quasi-experimental. Yeah, I prefer quasi. Quasi-experimental methods could use an independent or dependent sample designs. Got it? However, single group designs does not include a control group. Sometimes such a design use a pre-test and post-test methodological settings. The only possibility to offer causal support. Okay, the only possibility to offer causal support to the formulated conclusion is pre-test, post-test comparison. It means we use different research methods are designed. Case studies, descriptive observational studies, experimental, near experimental, single group designs. These are examples. Now, I would like to discuss some considerations to be taken while studying the effectiveness of intervention program, while researching upon the value of intervention research. Whatever the design is, it should include details regarding program's main components, feasibility and mechanism of change, stage of development, implementation, and its compatibility with the existing community environment. Okay, this brief presentation should include details regarding program's main components. It should include the program's main components, evaluation or research on the effectiveness of intervention program should include program's main components, feasibility and mechanisms of change, similarly stage of development or implementation and its compatibility with the existing community environment. The context, input, process and product. Insert CIPP. Context, existing situation. Input, that is treatment, pedagogical support, information given to them. Process of intervention, for example lecture, discovery, guided practice, like that. And product means outcome. This should be emphasized in the designs and methods of intervention. Context includes its variable, a problem, presentation and description. Inputs summarize the critical inputs, critical information, most valuable information needed to produce the desired result, resources available to clients and characteristics. Here, process includes all the details of the mediating processes, targeted activities and quality of implementations. Likewise, product description will include all the expected outcomes and criteria to judge the effectiveness of the program. So taking support from Martens and Wilson 2019. Context is problem presentation and description. Input, critical input information provided through the resources or resources available to clients. Process, the details of the mediating process, intervention process, deliberation process, and product is the expected outcomes. Okay, in conclusion, here you see the figure. In this figure we see several designs. The designs can be quantitative, qualitative and mixed one. Methods can be experimental, methods can be qualitative, quantitative, and mixed. We use both of the term interchangeably. For example, AUC, quantitative designs, either determine the effectiveness of an intervention or they are descriptive. Designs we use: experimental design, near experimental or quasi-experimental, single group designs, intervening in a single group, no comparisons at all, cause analysis, and the lurking variables. Results show that change in the dependent variable is the result of the intervention. There can be some threats to validity. There can be some extraneous variables which should be controlled. So from the part of qualitative studies, from the part of quantitative studies, we can carry out descriptive, observational, experimental, near experimental, single group intervention, and from the part of qualitative studies, we can use several designs. However, the choice of design depends on the nature of problem and the objectives of the study. So some examples of qualitative designs are here as follows: ethnography, phenomenology, grounded theory. We can we can carry out some even qualitative research, even in uh, finding out the effectiveness of intervention program, like ethnography, phenomenology, grounded theory, narrative inquiry, discourse analysis, participatory action research, case studies, focus group. These are just a few. These are some names. We can use them considering our objectives and research goals. Okay? And we follow certain quality criteria in the intervention program. Now, I discuss in brief about the quality criteria. The intervention design allow us to have confidence in the inference based on our findings. We can see the effectiveness in terms of reliability, validity, practicality, and trustworthiness. So here, reliability, validity, practicality, and trustworthiness are the quality criteria that we employ in intervention research. Experimental designs have higher internal validity compared to quasi-experimental, compared to near experimental or descriptive designs. Simultaneously with the intervention, external variables can act as the participants that generate effects similar to those expected based on the intervention. Experimental design is considered to have the highest probability to reach a good control and consequently a high level of internal validity. Pre-experimental designs, near experimental, pre-experimental designs have a low internal validity but high external validity. For example, quasi-experimental research. A design has high external validity but it lacks internal validity and high degree of generalizability. Anyway, validity, reliability, practicality, trustworthiness, the quality criteria. So for the detailed information, you go through, I suggest you go through these references, the list of the articles, books, and journals included over here. So you will be going and you will develop your ideas, right?